Hi, my name is Kathi, and you're listening to the Two Non-Brits podcast. And as you probably already know, this episode is divided in two parts, and this is now the second part of our podcast. So I hope you enjoy. And also, which influence it has on our development to know one or two or also three languages, or which languages in particular, because when the languages are very different, which with different alphabets, for example, or different pronunciations, or like I know, yeah, just or even different cultures, it is such a great thing you have there, because you can, if like in the best way, like probably you are lucky and you can write even in both languages or read in both languages, what means that you can have more information sources. You probably know two different cultures. It's easier for you to learn probably other languages, like not necessarily but often. And I know it's just a big, yeah, it's a big treasure you have there, I guess.
I think in general, languages and also in literature or in just like written things and in general, like, but I guess especially literature and poetry and kind of older written pieces in a way just have like a different use of language as well, like a more like we read Jane Eyre, for example, in English literature last year, and it just the description and the use of words is not what you wouldn't really talk like that today. You would be very weird if you just walk like across the street and you just talk like they did. But in a way, it gives you like a different feeling, but still for the same language, because the use of words or the kind of even the meaning of words can change. But still, if you like can understand a language that well that you are able to read books like that, then it just gives you like a whole different feeling for the language again in a way, and you understand it differently overall. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, when I'm glad that me personally, I didn't do English literature. I only did English language because I was terrible at that sort of thing. Um, I mean, I agree with what you're saying though, because it kind of gives a different aspect onto the language that you're learning, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously. Nice. We are back.
And
Okay, so I would
the
just ask.
commercial break, we are back. Aaron, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Back yet.
Sadly, we are not getting money for the advertisement. That just was for the. So I would just go on with this question, because I think you guys also have to answer something. I mean, even though it's your podcast, but
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is like a double-sided
yeah.
competition. So of course you can.
You also need to think about your answers. It cannot be that you're always just asking people without having to think about the answer too.
True.
So, okay. So my probably last question would be, now we have talked a lot about languages, and I think this whole episode was about language learning and adapting to new languages, and about the challenges also to learn a language and the characteristics different languages have. But what do you think, like your personal opinion, about when you hear a person talking? For example, we three. I mean, you're sitting in a room together, but I'm here in another country, and you can't even see me. You can only hear me. So I make an impression on you, for example, especially in Aaron, because he does not know me at all. So it's a first impression. And in general, when you hear people talking in a specific way, talking probably a language which is not their mother tongue or their mother language kind of, or even in their own language, what do you think? How can the way a person is talking influence their impression on the people who are listening to this person? Like, you get my question? How can it influence us? The 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 picture we get of a person.
I mean, generally, can I just start with?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, generally, of course, it's like the tone you have in your voice. You could sound really angry and be like really aggressive and shouty, but you also can be like really friendly, and you could make some jokes and all that. So you could have like this kind of relaxed, friendly environment you create with like your use of language. But also the use of language can be how you speak. So if you have an accent, so you could have in a way like a posh accent or very educated accent, I guess, if you know what I mean. Like you can have different ways of just pronouncing words. I mean, of course, also depending on where you're from in terms of country and region in the country, but you know, and also like your use of words. If you say some words very often, or if you say words that you would kind of associate with like words you can say every day, but you not really would necessarily, if that makes sense, you know. So I guess that also can make an impression, because if someone sounds like really educated and really smart in the way they talk, then not that we're not smart, but then that can seem kind of intimidating, because you think, oh, the other person is like so much smarter than me, and I feel like so small compared to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It can be kind of that. But also, I guess it depends on like the mood the person is in, the way they talk, or if they're tired, or if they have like loads of energy and use like way too many words because they're way too energetic.
I also think like it depends on, like, for instance, I know I can hear you have like a German accent, so I then immediately, think of Germany, if that makes sense. Like, I think like the culture of what I know of it and that sort of stuff will, and I suppose that plays a part in like thinking about how the person is, I suppose, or like who they are and that sort of stuff. But definitely, I think, like you said, the tone obviously plays a big part, because like you can tell if somebody's angry or if somebody's nice or something like that.
Yeah.
So we agree that it definitely makes an impression. How, or leaves, and probably a different impression than we will probably get of the person when we see it. When we see the when we see the person, right?
We're probably all yeah.
No, but because I think that even the same person can make so many different impressions on people just based on the moment and the way you just meet the people, kind of. Because if you are, for example, if you see the person, you can already be interested in the person, or probably also not interested at all in the person, because just of her kind of looking, so on how the person is dressed, for example, you're like, oh no, that's definitely not the person I want to be friends with. But also, I think that when we just hear a person talking, that can also that can make such a different impression, because through the language we can express our way of thinking, kind of. We can show, or we do show, how good we can express our feelings or our thoughts. So we also can show how, for example, how educated we are, without even wanting to show that. It's just that you just get this image of a person. You also, when you're hearing a person without having ever seen this person, you have an image in your head how this person might look like. Normally, the person looks completely different, but you just have an impression of this person. Oh my god, of it. No. And also, a person can talk in so many different ways. There are so many people who can adapt their language. I know, like to a particular situation. Like they can switch it. They can sound very, very educated using only terms like professional, I know, science terms or whatever, just for expressing something you could say in a very different, very easy way, actually. But they can also use, for example, words or a language which young generations do use, which probably sounds not so educated, but it also makes a connection between people, between adolescents, for example, because they know, yes, that's my person, kind of. This person understands me. This person talks in the same language as I am. And true. I think this is impressive about languages. We can express so many things, and on the other way around, we also can't express many things. And there's so many ways of expressing a thing in so many different ways, even in the same language, that I know, I just love this just way of communication, kind of, and how it can change.
But that is very true.
Just depending on your talking partner, you know?
Yeah.
So that is something very impressive, actually, with languages.
Yeah. What I was just thinking, sometimes, because in the way of how your personal use of language changes, I mean, of course, you need to learn a language to learn more words and different words for different meanings and all that to express what you're thinking or what you're feeling, or, you know. But also what I notice sometimes when I read a book, that the way the author writes or lets his characters, or like the characters talk, it kind of influences the way I use words, at least in my thinking, I guess in my as well. I was reading His Dark Materials, the first book, and it uses the way of language it uses. By the way, it's a great book, so go and read it. And then I was reading The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and the use of language in that is very different. It's much more of a teenager. The sentences are built very different and put together, and how the kid in the book expresses his thoughts and all is very different. And so I was reading that, and the whole way I was thinking just changed completely again. So that can be so fascinating to just kind of notice about yourself. By the way,
also how
Wallflower is also an amazing book.
Thank you for this advertisement again. No, but really, it's just also how different characters are depicted just by using a few particular words, or a few particular words, how they express their thoughts in their own dialogues, kind of. For example, when we just take the book Harry Potter, because I think most people outside know Harry Potter, so it won't be anything new for them. When we take, for example, Hagrid and Hermione, right? Hermione is this, everyone knows that she's just the probably most educated girl in the entire, I know, school for her age, kind of, or at her age.
Yes.
But she also talks differently. She talks like an educated person. She is good in expressing herself, or telling someone what she feels or thinks. And Hagrid the other way, and she also talks very educated. And Hagrid has a kind of a dialect, or I don't know, he's talking you wouldn't exactly think that this is the most educated person you'll ever meet in your life, because he's
I
don't know, he's he's using the short forms of many words, and he has like his own way of expressing himself. And I think this is something which also characterizes the people, even though we later, of course, know from the book that Hagrid is a more or less educated person, just on his own way, kind of.
That is true. It's so funny when you read Harry Potter, because the way you usually talk and write what you would say is like, in a way, the normal English, and then Hagrid lines are just so different, and you're just trying to figure out what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, the first book, I read it 2 years ago. Yeah, kind of late, but yes. And I was like, okay, wait a second, what is he talking about? And now I'm reading the fifth book, I don't know. It was like, yeah, I can understand what he's talking about, because I just got used to the way he is talking. But like the first book was difficult in terms of Hagrid's language. Also, sometimes in other languages, it can also make an impression if you're talking in your own languages or in other languages, because I'm a person, it's sometimes really difficult for me, as you probably noticed, to come to a point or to shorten the things I say, like things that basically every teacher tells me. That the things you say are good, just make it more precise or whatever.
Yeah.
Like keep it short. But in German or even in Russian sometimes, I actually can put a forward. I just wanted to say that I can keep my sentences short if I really try to, because sometimes it's necessary for me in exams, for example. But in other languages like English or Spanish, it's much more difficult, because you sometimes just do not know the words for it, and you have to describe it then, or to stop for a moment and to think again, okay, wait, what did I want to say? Like, how can I express it? So it sometimes gets longer than you want it to. But at least I think when you do not know the word for it, you just need to try, like, to keep on trying to describe the word, because it's always better for practicing language to just try than to stop and to say, well, okay, I don't know how to say it.
That is true.
And afterwards, for example, just look up the words or just try to learn them for expressing yourself better the next day, for example. The next day, yeah, of course. But the next time.
Yes.
So yeah. So I think you can sound sometimes more educated when you talk in your own language, just because of your word range, than in other languages. But it's also your talking style which characterizes a person. How are you talking?
I think the way I talk in German now is really funny, because I use, in a way, big words that are similar to English, and I try to think of the word, but I think of the English word first and then try to say it in German and just say, you know what I mean? Like the kind of less common version of the German word, but it's still the right one. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I kind of talk a mix between sometimes those, in a way, bigger words, and then how we talk in our friend group.
Yeah, that's true.
It is a very funny mix between those in German.
It is.
It also, our friend group, of course, is very different, because we're all teenagers. We spend too much time
true.
on the internet, like pretty much every teenager. So,
it's also just, it's kind of another topic, but where you say how we express ourselves, it's also very funny to hear you now talking fluently in English, because I remember the moment it was already 3 years ago, so it was like 1 year before you decided to go to the UK and to never come back, obviously. Okay, I'm sorry. Aaron, take good care of my friend.
I will.
Really.
Well, literally 1 week. In 1 week, I am there.
Yeah. And let's hope that you will come back to the UK, because probably I won't let you to go back. But yeah. So if someone does not take good care of you, it might have consequences for this person. Just like saying. Probably just cut it out. It does
I
not.
kind of feel worried now.
But what did you want to say 3 years ago?
I know we were lying. We always had this tent. How is that in English?
The tent.
Yeah, the tent,
very
right?
right. Yeah.
And it was a tent you normally have on the beach, a beach tent.
Yeah.
So
like,
it was not
keep
like
the wind.
fully covered, but it was small and opened, kind of.
Yeah.
So when you were lying inside it, your upper body was inside it, and your legs were outside.
Yes.
Yeah. And but we were always building it up in Marie's room, so in your room, and we were always sleeping inside it. So I can't remember that that we ever had a sleepover together at your place, and we were ever sleeping on a normal bed or mattress. We were always having this.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Except for our last night.
Because that was just amazing.
Yeah, it was so much fun. But except for the last, of course, night, where we had slept over before you drove to the airport, like before we took you to the airport, because obviously it was like already, oh my god, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. I didn't know it was so late.
Something.
Yeah, and we got only 3 hours sleep because we had to go to the airport at 4 a.m. So we had to stand up at 3 a.m. So yeah, it was a crazy night. And we had cake for breakfast, and it was 6 a.m. It was amazing, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I just can remember
that day. Do you remember?
Yeah, that's true. But oh my god! But as we were lying in this tent 3 years ago, I know we were talking about different stuff, and one of it was English, the English language, kind of. And we were talking about the pronunciation of the th and of different letters and of fluent talking, actually. And I mean, it was 2 or 3 years ago, so our English was, yeah, not so good. Yeah. And you were just like, yeah. I mean, I do not know sometimes how to get better in pronunciation, for example, like pronouncing the th, especially, or in expressing myself. That was like more or less the thing you told me. And I was like, yeah, it's sometimes difficult. I mean, we can try to do this and that, but of course it would need intensive learning.
Yeah.
To upgrade your language skills, kind of. And especially the th was a thing we were struggling much with, or I am still struggling with it, obviously, but it's for me really not so easy to learn to pronounce it always correctly. Sometimes it works, sometimes not. Sometimes it does not work at all. And you nowadays, you have such a different language, and English language especially. You can express yourself so good and like so many things. I mean, obviously you're studying there, but still, it's just such a big difference to your English skills 2 or 3 years ago. It was obvious, but I just know you were the first month in the UK, and I was like, oh my god, I want to know how her language will change in, I don't know, a year. I really want to know that. And now it's like it has been 1.5 years, and it's so amazing. Just like the difference.
But I'm very happy to share it with you.
Yeah, me too. That you shared with me, obviously.
Okay, I just one last thing for today, and I will tell a little story. Do you remember?
Ooh.
It must have been.
Do you have popcorn?
3 or 4 years ago.
I mean, you're telling a story. Come on.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it must have been 3 or 4 years ago. I honestly don't really know. No, it was 17. So 14.
You are
Oh, it
17.
wasn't that long ago. Maybe no, 3 years.
So
Whatever.
were you
Anyway,
14 or how old were you?
I don't remember. Anyways, it doesn't matter that much. So Fedya was. If you remember, the summer Fedya visited you.
It was 2 years ago. Come on, it was 2019.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Anyways, and he's a friend, and we just walked through Berlin, and we wanted to
Mm-hmm.
visit a museum, and
Mm-hmm. Oh my god, yeah. Oh my god. Oh my god, yeah. I remember.
and we pretended to talk English as if we're not from Germany because we were just having fun and it was just amazing. So we went to like the museum thingy and we're just talking in English all the time, and where you like give your jackets and bags to like the museum people. We were just talking in English all the time. We'll try to read signs how English people would probably try to
Yeah.
pronounce German things.
Oh my god, yeah. And
Yeah.
our English was not even half so good as it is now because
Our
we were not
English
even in the
was
10th grade.
bad. Our English was bad.
Yeah.
And our pronunciation was so bad. And everyone
Yeah.
must have thought, what are these children doing?
Because I think even our pronunciation must have been so bad that the person who was like giving us the tickets was like, "Oh my god, come on, guys!
They
I
literally,
know
they
that you're from
must have
here."
noticed it. They must have noticed it.
Yeah. I mean, I think our English it wasn't so bad in comparison to how old we were, and that we were not living in the
No,
UK, obviously. But
yes.
I think in comparison to our English level now, I mean, even mine has gotten better, you know, and I'm not in the UK right now, but it must have gotten better because I can
Definitely
express
it did.
myself better. And it's like, oh my god, it must have been so dumb.
I just love that
And
story because if you think back, it must have been. It would be so embarrassing if we would go there back now and like be ourselves again, and you know, it's just so
oh my god,
funny.
yes. I would just, oh, why did we do that? But it was also funny. I also know that Fedya, this guy who is from Russia and who came to visit me, he can talk only Russian, obviously. and and they have another language learning system in Russia, so they're studying a lot of grammar things, but they're not really learning how to talk like at a normal school, at least, you know. So his English was what, like, in terms of his talking skills, also not very stable, you know, like not so good. So it was kind of difficult for him. I mean, for us too.
Hmm.
Um, and we were only 14 and 15 years old, so I think it's quite normal, but still. But the problem is he couldn't express himself in German either because he has never studied this language
Yeah.
ever. So I mean, I could talk Russian, it's okay, but he couldn't, like, not really,
Yeah.
you know, apart from hello, goodbye, how are you.
Mm.
And so I know we were buying us some lunch, like getting some lunch, and I I just left them. Oh, yes, I know I'm a good friend. Sitting out there because I went like in this store to pay, and I really hoped like I was stalking them from inside to just to hope that they would start talking, and they were just like sitting and looking at me laughing, or I'm looking confused. I was like, come on, guys. And of course it was dumb because there was this language barriere, I would say, in German, this
Area.
big, yeah, this language area kind of, which was, of course, they couldn't talk to each other. I mean, our English was not good at all, not ours, not his. So this wouldn't be a good option. His German was basically level 0. Marie's Russian was also not really fluent. Like, you were only studying it for 2 years. I mean, what do you expect, you know? Russian is a very difficult language to learn, I would say. So yeah. And they were just like sitting there and like waving at me like hi, and I'm like, cool, guys, it's working out quite well. And then we were trying to talk to my friend in the museum, like inside it. And of course, it was difficult because we can express that the things we saw, like the universe, like a picture of it, obviously, dinosaurs, more dinosaurs, and even more dinosaurs. We couldn't express that or our feelings at all, and he could not understand us. So yeah, that was funny. It was a cool meeting. To be honest, it was really cool.
It was
just difficult. Softer,
yeah. You were just talking between Russian all day, and you were just talking in Russian to him and in German to me, and then you like translated each. And at some point, we were just on the bus, and then you like your brain just stopped working, and you just tried to talk to me.
I was like, hang on.
And then you just couldn't talk anyway.
And then I talked to him in German. Yeah, I know. But come on. Apart from that, I was the best. I was better than the Google Translator on the day.
You were doing an amazing
job
there, honestly.
Thank you.
Incredible.
Yeah. Sorry, Aaron. You're probably thinking come on, it's cool. Now you're getting a brief insight about Marie's life before you met her. Isn't that cool? Yeah.
So, as you can see, there are loads of adventures, even if you're in your own country, that can happen. Language.
So now what we learned from this podcast is it's always useful to learn some languages, but even if you don't, or you do not have the motivation to learn them, or you can't, or whatever, there are always ways of expressing yourselves, even though they are more difficult, but it always kind of works. Even though you have probably to use, I don't know, signs or I don't know, but it will work if you just harmonize with a person, kind of, if you have the right chemistry over the thought of it. But yeah, I think there are so many ways to communicate the language. It's definitely not the only one, but it's probably the easiest one.
Yeah.
Even though there are still so many chances to not understand a person, even though the person's talking exactly your language. But hey.
Well, now we all have learned a lot about language, and I hope our listeners out there feel, I guess, a bit more motivated to maybe pick up another language or kind of try to experience their own language a bit differently, because even in your own language there's so many different things and ways you can express it. So I don't know, I guess just go out there and grab a book, grab a cup of tea or whatever you like to drink, and
listen to some songs. I mean, come on,
just try to experience some language today.
Yeah, and also I think mainly as well, just do it as well. Not don't like say, you know, oh, I'm going to do it maybe tomorrow or something. You know, I mean, I'd want to say, considering I don't actually haven't learned another language, but like, I suppose it goes with anything though.
True.
If you plan on doing something, don't say, oh, I'll do it tomorrow or whatever. Just do it now.
And always keep in mind for what you're actually doing it, because sometimes it helps me, for example, to get the right motivation. Because even though I know I'm doing it for myself, I know I will learn, for example, English to travel to the UK and, for example, to stay there for a few months or whatever, and to probably get better at the language I'm already learning, or just understand the people there. So to know your culture. It has so many advantages to know languages, even though how you express yourself. Like there are so many ways you learn, so many words you can learn just from knowing another language, that it always might be helpful.
No, definitely.
So I guess everyone out there has a lot of thoughts about language now, and I hope you feel, I guess, inspired to go and experience some language. And therefore we will end this podcast, and Thank you for being here today, Kathi. It was really nice to talk to you again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Definitely. And then we'll see you guys soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.